you have to come back. It's dads/parents versus the girls.
Ooh.
Dude, I started sweating because I thought about myself. Like Onaldo. Like I thought about fat Onaldo running around out there.
Maradona.
Yeah.
Just running around.
Like I was just like, what are these? And I was typing out some type of injury because my ankle's kind of jacked up. I was thinking of some type of element that I'm like, I can't do this.
So you're creating a fake injury to get out of a parent's kid's soccer game? I don't blame you. I'd probably be trying to think of the same thing.
My gray sweatpants on, a T-shirt with the bottom half of the boiler wheeling down out of the T-shirt. My Nike Jordans on with, like, they're not even tied up. And I'm like, if I start moving and sweating out there, it's like you saw me run the fort. Yeah.
Yeah, someone's going to catch that and say, look at this guy. He's got mid-drift, and he's trying to dribble, and it's really going to be a mess. Yeah, that's a problem.
So I pull into the parking lot, and my eyes lit up like dinner plates because I looked down to the left, and the dad/parents don't have a goalie. I got out of my car, and I burn rubber, and I run into that net, and I was like, my life is saved. I don't have to move here. And then I make a save. I make one save, and I go to throw it in the air and kick it like a soccer goalie. I'm telling you, I ripped my groin from my hip all the way around to the undercarriage and right up my back, all gone in one kick, and I fell down. And then I couldn't move. They scored 4 goals. My daughter's the other goalie yelling at me. This is an embarrassment.
I love it.
I thought being the goalie was going to be great. Not so great.
No, it's never a good idea. But you shouldn't, you got to, I guess, try to avoid kicking the ball. I'm not sure what I could tell you on that. But at least you got in there, A for effort. That's all that matters. I'm not at that point, my kids who aren't going to be on the ice or, in the net or on the pitch or whatever. But happy Father's Day to everyone out there. Hopefully you had a better one than it sounds like you had. We got a lot going on. This week it's kind of a transition week in the NBA. In the NHL, the Jays are back in action tonight. Seeing some news as we come on. Alejandro Kirk on the IL. He's a new
shot
dad.
to the hand. They said the X-rays came back negative, though. I was
laceration,
watching that game.
So I guess it's cut and to the point where maybe he can't hold the bat appropriately. So he goes on the IL. Danny Jansen just returned, like a week ago. So Heineman comes back up. Trent Thornton comes up. Francis goes back down. It's not a good scene for the Jays.
No.
It's really, there is not a lot of positivity. Puking away a 6-0 lead yesterday.
No, John Schneider was.
You can't have it.
There was only one guy taking as much heat as Schneider on Twitter as far as trends go. It was Paul Zinger.
Zinger, man, do people hate on Zinger. Man, what is it about Zinger that they dislike so much?
I don't know, but it was like the one chip. The guy Zinger was like, no way the hell that thing's getting to the hole, and it starts dribbling down, and then Hicks is going, yeah, that's going right. Then Zinger's like, no way, and it's like, Zinger, what are you talking about?
Yeah, we're watching him, man.
And then everyone on Twitter is like, what the hell is Zinger talking about? And he was jacking up facts, not Brad Faxon, like he was getting facts wrong, and he was repeating things. He's like, that fairway's 15 meters or 15 yards wide. Then the next group came, and he's like, he's got to fit it through that fairway, and it's 15 yards. People were losing it on Zinger.
I know.
And he seems like this Southern dude, and it's like, chill out. People were hating on that guy yesterday, and Schneider.
Yeah, Schneider's getting crushed. I don't think you can blame him, though, for a number of things that are sticking out here. Schneider, is he doing a great job? No one can suggest that he is. There have been a number of maneuvers that have cost him. But yesterday, you spot Chris Bassett a 6-0 lead. That's not on the manager to close that out. Are you kidding me?
I know. That's automatic stuff.
And it's automatic. For a serious baseball team, that is automatic.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact is the Blue Jays are not a serious baseball team right now. They are the definition of a middle ground, mediocre club.
And that's what they are, man.
That's what they are. Just a mediocre team. Doesn't mean they don't have enough talent that could eventually get them over the top. But they have too many guys who are floating through the season. Vladdy was awful again over the weekend. Like, let's call it what it is. Vladdy's been awful. Like, he had 3 hits over the weekend, none of them extra bases. And you can't have that. Like, you pencil in monster production from Vladdy Guerrero Jr. You pencil it in prior to the season, just like you pencil it in with Alek Manoah. And everyone said what they said about Manoah. And listen, he deserved all the criticism that he got because it was so explosive. And it's not as if Vladdy has been that poor. But he's got an OPS under 800. He's got 9 home runs. We're past Father's Day.
Yeah, and
like that's just
like you said, it's an automatic.
Can't
it's an
happen.
Automatic.
Yeah, he's
Austin
killing
Matthews
him right now.
Is automatic. It's like poor year, you're getting 40 goals. Not poor, but the bare minimum, you're getting 40 out of that guy. You know what I mean? And like top end, you're getting 50 or 60. And he's just not at that. I thought he was going to be an automatic guy, and he's just not there yet. As for this year, anyway.
As for this year, it's not there. Alejandro Kirk was really special last year. He hasn't been this year. As good as Chapman was in April, it's been the opposite basically ever since. And meanwhile, they're hitting for average. Their statistics kind of across the board are just middle of the ground. You know what I mean? Like I'm not suggesting they're a bad club. They're still above 500. But this idea that they were going to come in and all these different chess moves by Atkins and company were going to push them well above 90 wins. But as of now, that has not. We haven't seen anything that would indicate that that's the case.
But don't we have our answer there? Like you just pointed out, a 6 or 7 pack of people that are either underperforming or, not playing well, or you name it, however you want to phrase it. Like when a team is near the top, you're rattling people off. You probably have 2 or 3 guys that aren't having good seasons.
Right.
Team that near the bottom, exact same thing. Look at the Angels. They're an outlier, obviously, but that Ohtani is ridiculous.
Ohtani is leading them in every single statistic.
Ridiculous.
It's crazy how good he is.
But coming back to the Jays, when you start going, okay, Vladdy, not Vladdy, the only guy who's been pretty consistent is Bo.
Bichette's been outstanding. Yeah,
right.
He's been outstanding. Kiermaier's been great. Yeah, there's guys that have exceeded their expectations, but it was never going to exceed to a point where you're talking like MVP caliber to make up for what Vladdy needs to bring, what Springer needs to bring, what you needed out of Alek Manoah on the mound.
Right,
these were main pieces. You're talking Springer, you're talking Guerrero Jr., you're talking Manoah. Those are 3 of your 6 or 7 most important players coming into the season, and none of them have hit levels that are expected and quite frankly needed. And yet, even with that said, they're still absolutely in a wild card race. Tampa's gone, but Tampa's been gone since 25, 30 games into the season, basically. But they're right there with the Yankees, who are struggling themselves. They've lost 4 in a row. Houston has been nowhere close to who they used to be. They've lost 4 in a row. The Angels are actually in the hunt here, but I fully expect that they'll fade at some point. So there is a glass half full, but they're not very good. They're just okay. They're just an okay club. And now they're in Miami playing a team that's red hot. Miami, for the first time in a long time, actually winning ball games and appear to be a serious player. So, we'll see with Barrios on the mound tonight.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, the Open, what was going on? There wasn't a lot of fans out there. Was there a lot of, I was reading on Twitter, what was the deal? Why were the fans not there? Was it the club members bought the tickets?
My read on the situation was...
It was weird.
It was weird to see not a huge grandstand, it just didn't look like... It looked kind of... I don't know.
It didn't look like a U.S. Open.
Yeah,
it was,
exactly.
Let's call it what it's going to be. One of the most
rich man festival.
One of the most forgettable majors in decades. That's what it's going to be because the club didn't pop. It's a beautiful course, course, but it didn't pop like some others. The crowds were really weak, and it sounds as if the members, like LA Country Club, I guess, put a limit on the amount of tickets that were capable of being sold, which I'm not sure why the USGA would allow that. And on top of it, a lot of the members were buying up tickets and just killing them, just burying the tickets so that there wasn't foot traffic all over their course, which is the most obnoxious rich guy move
what about
all time.
What about the traditional grandstands around the greens and around the first tee? Give me a grandstand on the first tee, and it was what is this? It looked like what it was, some pompous rich country club where it's everyone mind your P's and Q's around here. Like, even I wouldn't mind some hatred for the live guys, like anything, man.
Nothing.
There was nothing.
Nothing. And a guy named Wyndham wins it, which is perfect.
Oh, dude, don't take away from that dude. That guy golfed his ball, man.
He played great.
Wyndham
But
Clark,
Wyndham sounds like a guy that would have an automatic membership at LA Country Club. Right? If your name's Wyndham, you're in immediately. And the point is, for the average fan, people don't know who he is. And you had McIlroy there, you had Fowler there, you had Scheffler sniffing, and he went out and won it. Like his up and down on 17 and that lag putt on 18, that is phenomenal golf. Yeah. Phenomenal for him to close. And, Fowler faded. McIlroy did what he always does on Sundays now. But I'm just saying, Wyndham Clark is not a guy the average fan knows.
I'll tell you where he showed some stones. Some of those are. Like, Hazy, when you were on 18 at Coppenwood and you started chili chunking it around the green, he was in some stressful situation. He just pulled out a lob wedge, man, and he didn't think about putting it from weird places. He's like, I'm chipping this, and I'm going to hit a good chip. That's the sign that he's got some stones right there.
Absolutely. No, full credit to him. It's an incredible story, and he's a good player. Like, he's legitimately a very good player. He's going to probably play himself onto the Ryder Cup team. I think he's now rated, he's 13th ranked player in the world. Just won at Wells Fargo, which is a legit tournament. Like, he's a really good player.
Quail Hollow and that place, those are serious golf courses.
Absolutely.
And maybe he's not going to be like a Rory or a Scheffler, but he might be in that Schauffele category. And that's Schauffele, man. I'm never taking him again.
Well,
he might give me a top 10. And it's like, but he does some weird. Remember, see him in the bunker in the fairway? He was hacking and whacking. On the last day on the first hole, he couldn't get out of the fairway bunker.
No, he is a classic example of a guy who's always lurking, but he doesn't close.
Yeah, and you know what was driving me nuts? I've been supporting Ricky Fowler for the last 2 years, and to your disdain, and you take him, and I'm like, this guy's going to win the U.S. Open. And that's my guy.
I know. I mean, did you really think he was going to close?
No, I'm sorry.
That's the thing. I didn't really think he was going to close.
So? I'm like, Ricky Fowler's going to do some weird stuff, and all of a sudden he went from 11 under to 6 under in an hour and a half, and I was like, yes.
It was like
I was watching it, and I'm like, I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah. He quickly played himself out. He had 2 quick bogeys, and it's like he's not going to battle back into this tournament. You see some guy yelled, "Give him the heater, Ricky," after he threw like a dart in on, I don't remember which one
it was a T-ball on the way, and as soon as it got in the air, get the audio from
Give him a heater.
Some guy, the ball goes in the air, and all you hear is, give him
a heater.
Give him the heater, Ricky. That's a great pull. That's the kind of shouting and screaming at a sporting event I can get behind. I can get behind that kind of activity. But
how about the shouting in Vegas, too? That
I love
that cup party. This William Karlsson might be my new favorite player.
I totally agree. That is the definition of a clinic. Like, to be in Vegas and people like, that guy is buckled. That is so hard.
He fell down the stairs walking.
That is so hard to do that in Vegas. He is like, that guy put on a clinic. That shirt came off so quickly, too. He got in there, the shirt got off.
Yeah.
It was I'll give them a lot of credit, man. They had fun. They should have fun. Why wouldn't you have fun? You just won a Stanley Cup.
That's when you got the full green light to just do whatever the hell you want, man.
Yeah.
And they took advantage of it. Sounds like they went to town. Like they're just and so be it. You saw the goaltender rapping. Jack Eichel was having himself a time like that. I loved it because it was just good, honest fun. These guys are drinking, having a good time, including the fans. It sounds like a good fan base showed up. Obviously, it wasn't.
Yeah, they deserve it. It's been 6 tough years.
Yeah,
6 long years. A lot of scars down there in Vegas.
Boy, you're going to ride that right to the end.
Oh, man. Like, the idea that, Karlsson was one of them. He's like, you guys have been here through it all. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Day
man?
one.
6 years you've been to 2 cup
through it all.
Yeah. It's serious. But, listen, credit where it's due. Credit where it's due. They closed. They did so in dominating fashion. Speaking of parades, did you see Mike Malone? I don't recall seeing a coach buckled at a parade. But he was absolutely dummy. Like, he could barely spit out words. And that I have a level of appreciation for.
Yeah.
I expect the players to do it, but usually the coach, he's kind of riding like a yellow light, like somewhere in between. Maybe he goes through, maybe he pumps the brakes, nothing too crazy. Mike Malone decided to floor it, man. It was a green light special for him.
Yeah.
In Denver.
Of course, LeBron's not happy and claps back. Like, it's just,
right.
LeBron just can't help himself. And
he's got to get in there and throw something in there, doesn't he?
Yeah, just has to, hey, still over here, folks, still over here.
Yeah, we see you, LeBron. We understand. We got you. Mike, I don't think Mike Malone really cares about your retort because Mike Malone's sitting at the top of the mountaintop right now.
Yeah, good on. You know what? These parades and people getting buckled and enjoying themselves, like, have at it. Like, it's amazing. And you're right. I can't remember the last time. Like, I didn't see Bruce Cassidy being carried out and, shoveled in there. I saw him and Bill Foley. I don't know if you saw the actual, introduction. So before the team came out, before anything, it was Bill Foley walks in.
Of course.
And then it was Bruce Cassidy walked out, and then they both were, high-fiving on the stage. It was awesome. All I could think of is I was waiting for Bill Foley to arrive in a helicopter or something like that.
Well, how about him taking shots at the Oakland A's eventually getting there? I thought I read that over the weekend where he's like, I don't know if baseball will work. It's like, what are you talking about? Everyone said that about your team, and you proved them wrong. And I understand if you'd hate on the idea of the Oakland A's and them getting away with what they're going to get away with and effectively backdooring into a fortune and, them trying to come onto your turf, I guess, to an extent. Like, maybe there is a little bit of concern there that with the NFL already there, everyone expects the NBA to come. Then if you get baseball in there, that's, Vegas, it grew up really quickly. Yeah. There's a lot. That's a lot of sporting events in relatively short order. But the Golden Knights, they made it happen. Full credit to them.
Well,
and
the crazy thing is, crazy thing is now, if you're Kelly McCrimmon, you got to go to work. They got to be cap compliant next year, and everyone's talking about, well, maybe they got to trade Riley Smith to clear up some money or whatever. There is somebody from that cup-winning team who's going to be enjoying themselves and going to get a phone call saying, "I just traded you to, to Arizona to clear cap space."
Absolutely, absolutely. Yet they have a lot of guys under contract, and something to chew on is brought to you by Boston Pizza. This summer, whether you're in Moose Jaw or Moncton, there's a BP patio near you. Join us for a long lunch or a late night, and see you for a pint on the patio soon. We're asking, with 17 of 19 players under contract for next season, should the Golden Knights be Cup favorites entering next season?
Why wouldn't they be? I saw the list, and it's just sucking Canadian fans in again. It's Colorado, Leafs are second, then maybe Edmonton. I don't know. It's just how could that be? How could that be?
Well,
Vegas not top three? They just clobbered everyone.
No,
you were off, Hayes, and we were laughing. I was like, Leafs, the day after the Cup's handed out, Leafs were the favorite. Literally the second. They were second on the list.
Yeah, sure.
And O was like, "Are you kidding me?" And yeah, sure, it came up. But it is getting the fan base engaged. Now, Brad Treliving's been pretty quiet though. We'll see if he's got some work to do here. We'll see what he's got up his sleeve.
Yeah, I think to answer this, I would say that the Golden Knights should be. I do think they should be, but they're probably in a list of 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. But considering they're the champs right now, and yes, they're going to shave off some players and some money, they're going to come back with a relatively similar team that is going to be stacked. And Bruce Cassidy's still a great coach, and they're still going to be under marching orders to continue to go out and and make things happen. That's what McCrimmon is going to do, and that's what Bill Foley, their owner, has mandated. I don't think a cup is going to soften that. So I appreciate that mentality and that approach and that philosophy, and I expect it to continue. Yeah. As for the Leafs, I don't know. Are they actually going to do anything? All I'm hearing is, Sheldon's coming back, and they're talking to Willie, and I told you guys this was probably going to happen, that the core four is coming back, and Sheldon Keefe's going to come back, and I don't think it's Treliving. I think it's the guy above him, and I've always believed that, and I think Shanahan's probably made that call. There were reports out before Treliving was even hired that Shanahan had called the 4 players and said his intention is for them to come back. If that's his intention, then write it in stone. What's Treliving going to do? Show up and say, no, I'm not following your orders? It's not the way it works.
No.
So, what's really going to change here? some pieces are going to come and go, but
there's going to be a lot of change.
Coming back, it sounds like.
Joe from the Bridge posted the roster, and there has to be a lot of change because of the positions that are UFAs, and they got to fill the positions. But the main things are those same guys, Hayes. So it's like, what's really going to be different? I'm not sure.
Well, what's different for me, guys, is that decor. Like, that's where I circle and go, that's the revamp. I don't know how you do it, and people are going to ask me, what are you going to do? That's what you circle, because I think you have enough talent up front, and you can certainly fill out the rest of your roster. And yes, like, you have to spend it wisely and make sure you're balanced. Like, you'll find players that will be able to add to the value of your group. But I'm more bullish on that defensive core, watching the teams that went deep into the playoffs that all had, 2, 3, 4 guys that were top-tier defensemen. Mm-hmm. Like, that's where you can't just have makeshift and, hey, it's committee. And, like, I know Pittsburgh did it a couple of years ago with Letang being injured, and then, there was guys that were just good players. It wasn't top-tier guys. But looking at that Vegas team, the way that they just mauled everybody defensively, yes, the forwards chipped in, but that D was as good as anybody. And, I mean, Florida's D, they had guys that could jump in the play. They were physical. They were slotted properly. Like, Carolina's a team that, like, you look deeper into the playoffs, everybody had a stud, 1 or 2 studs on the back end. Like, that's, I know it's unbalanced, the Leafs, when you look at them. It's the 4 up front, and then you can add in nice pieces in that. But, like, Morgan Rielly's a really good player. But is he a stud? Is he a 1A? I'd rather him play with somebody else that would be his equivalent, not somebody that he has to try and prop up.
I think you're right about that. I don't see how you would possibly address that without trading a major trade. Because those guys aren't generally available during UFA status, and if they are, they're going to fetch a fortune, and the Leafs don't do that. I agree that is likely where Treliving goes. His history would suggest that he invests heavily in defense, specifically size. Like, those Calgary defense were pretty big. There's some pretty nasty guys back there. I would support that philosophy. I think that likely happens, but you're on the books for a number of guys, and if you're gonna bring back the main pieces in the head coach, will it really feel like a change? I guess we got to wait to see what actually happens. You know, and to be fair to Treliving, Shanahan, and the Leafs, it's still, the cup just got handed out. Like, we'll see what they end up doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But right now, there does seem to be a lot of rumors that kind of they like this guy, they like that guy. Keith's coming back. It's like, all right. And I kind of felt like Shanahan made that determination before he even hired anybody. And if that's going to happen, then his philosophy is we're going to just run it back, probably make the playoffs again, and hope everything breaks your way.
Well, here's something crazy. We can talk about it, later in the show, but it just, with the recency bias, like, you look at Treliving, obviously very close to that Calgary organization, close with Craig Conroy. Same thing. Kyle knows the Leafs. You wonder if Kyle will try and pluck 1 or 2 people from his former organization and vice versa, Tree from Calgary.
Sure. That would make sense, right? Yeah, I'm sure he's got favorites back there, and Kyle would have favorites here.
Right.
But
who?
What's it going to cost?
Justin Hall's going to be a Penguin.
He's a UFA. I wouldn't be surprised if he was down there.
I'd be shocked if they wouldn't. They got to move past him. They've got to move past him.
Yes. Absolutely.
Please.
I cannot picture a scenario where Justin Hall returns here. We got a big one today. We got Nick Taylor coming up in about an hour, who, didn't have the best of weeks down at the U.S. Open, but I think most people expected that based on what happened the week before. And Nick's coming up in about an hour from now. Dregs will join us on what he's hearing and reporting about Sheldon Keefe and Brad Treliving and what could happen in the NHL between now and the draft, and then beyond that up to July 1st. The Jays back in action. We'll tee that up with Scott Mitchell later this afternoon. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Nick Taylor in about an hour. Our buddy Steve Sands will join us here momentarily. Darren Dreger still to come. Scott Mitchell on the Jays, going 2-4 so far on this roadie. They're in Miami tonight. And the Marlins have been playing well. They're 10 games over 500. They've won 4 in a row. They're playing well. OverDrive brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Yeah, we got Santi coming up here in a moment. We'll ask him because he was on the grounds. Like, what was up with LA Country Club?
Yeah.
What was the story, and why did it not feel like it was anywhere close to what you would expect out of a U.S. Open?
I don't know the details, but how did the USGA say, okay, yeah, you can do it that way?
Right.
Like, I thought they wheeled in there and said, this is how it's going to be. Please step out of the way because we're taking control of the golf club for the next 10 days.
Exactly. Like, what is it about LA Country Club that you have to
Did
abide by
Lionel
what their
Richie
rules
step
are?
in?
I don't think he'd even be allowed in because no celebrities. Lionel Richie probably declined. But if you're going to do that, go to Pine Valley. You know, go somewhere else. Go to a place that is even higher on the list of exclusivity and, by all accounts, you know, greatness. And if there's only going to be so many fans there, screw it. You know, why stop at LA Country Club? Here's our buddy Steve Sands from NBC Sports and the Golf Channel. What was your read on that, Sandsy? Like, it didn't have a U.S. Open vibe. It just didn't feel like the crowds were that loud. What was going on out there in L.A.?
Wait, hang on a second. Are we not going to start with Nick Taylor in Canada? Are you guys joking? Are you kidding me that we're not starting with that? You want to talk about noise? Holy cow, is that great.
Wasn't that incredible? He's coming up in an hour, Sandsy. We'll ask him all about it.
Well, I saw Nick on the first tee the 10th tee. He was going to start a practice round with Adam Hadwin. It was like an all-Canadian practice round on Wednesday at LACC, and we were joking with him about Adam getting drilled like he was a wide receiver coming across the middle from the Argonauts. And Taylor's laughing. He's having a good time. I couldn't be happier for the kid, man. That's as electric a moment as I can remember at a PGA Tour event in a long, long time that didn't involve Tiger Woods. That was incredible. It was so cool.
I agree.
All right, so the noise level last week in Toronto was fabulous. The noise level this week in L.A. was not. Couple reasons for that. One is, as you guys know, LACC is ultra private. I mean, the creme de la creme of privacy.
Well, what does that have to do with the USGA, Sandsy? I just asked Hayes. I thought they wheeled in there and said, everybody out, we're taking over for 10 days.
Because what happened was when they made the deal with the USGA, they curbed ticket sales because they wanted to open their doors for the world to see, but not really. So they just curbed ticket sales to a certain number. And then the other part that was really bad, as far as the fan experience goes, or the viewing experience, really, for us in TV and for you guys watching, was the tickets that were sold, half of them were bought by members and then not used. So there were just not a lot of people there. There were not a lot of places where you could gather and have monster crowds, 40, 50, 60,000, like we had, a couple of weeks ago in Toronto, like we had at Royal St. George's, and like we had in Hamilton, like we had at Glen Abbey when Weir and VJ were going in the playoff. That's what a National Open is supposed to be like. And the U.S. Open is always rocking and rolling. And this past week, it was not nearly as loud or as festive as it usually would be, and that's strictly because of that. I think when they go back to LACC, they're going to create a much different atmosphere because I think they realize that was not exactly U.S. Open worthy.
Sandsy, speaking of the USGA, what do you think they thought about a 10 under number? I mean, 6, 7, 8 under on the first day. Were they like, let's try something new and we don't necessarily want to see everyone grind it out and even par? It's like even back in the Tiger Woods prime days, like that score, other than Pebble, was kind of around par. Did they just say, we want something new, or were they shocked that happened?
No, it was completely weather related. When Mother Nature doesn't cooperate, you really don't have a chance in this sport. It's very similar to some of the concerns that you have in hockey, as hockey has come farther south and, say, west of Vegas. You start getting humidity and heat in those buildings. That ice isn't nearly as good as it would be, say, in Toronto. If they made it all, God forbid, they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final. Geez, that town would blow up. Or anywhere like a traditional hockey town. In golf, it's the same thing. L.A. has had clouds and rain and cool temperatures for literally 6 or 8 straight weeks. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. When I got there from Toronto, I'm like, I'm going to go to L.A. This is going to be great. It was better weather in Toronto. It was cold and damp, and there was no breeze whatsoever, and there was no sunshine. They had that marine layer, and that June gloom is a real deal. If the sun comes out like it did on Saturday, that's when it got firm and fast and bouncy. So 8 under was the lead after 2 days. And I get your question because I've gotten asked this a lot, especially by people out there in L.A. last week. But it was only 2 under the rest of the way. So it was the U.S. Open on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But on Thursday, they just raced out to these crazy low numbers. Once the sun came out, once the course got firm and fast, the way it was originally supposed to be, then all of a sudden it broke out in a U.S. Open style of play. But, yeah, 10 under is, that's not very U.S. Open-like, but it's not the record. They've shot better numbers at other places. Not 62, but in totality they've shot better numbers. And I don't think the USGA loved the number. I don't think they loved the fans. I think they liked the Open. It was good, but it wasn't great by any means.
Wyndham Clark wins, but where were you at with Rory? Did you think he had a chance to pull it off?
Oh, yeah. I thought before the day, what's weird is we get asked all these ridiculous questions, who's going to win and what's the prediction? Who the heck knows? I mean, I have no idea. I said before Sunday's play, Rory was going to win at 9 under, and he finished at 9 under because I didn't think Ricky was up to the task on Sunday. I think his game is there, his swing is there, but the experience of that moment, it's been a long time. Does he trust what he's been working on? That's a difficult thing in this sport. And I just didn't think Ricky would be able to hang in there under the gun. I didn't think Wyndham Clark would fold. I just didn't think he would hover around 9 or 10 under. I didn't think Scotty could get there or Dustin could get there. I just thought Rory was going to be the last man standing, and 9 under was going to be it. He finished at 9, but he just didn't make any putts. At that round, to you guys, I know you guys are big sports fans, big golf guys, man, did that round look exactly like St. Andrews. He played great. He just didn't make any putts. And that ended up getting him in the end, and he lost by 1.
With Steve Sands, and that's where I'm curious if the reputation of McIlroy has either officially changed or it's changing in terms of the narrative that would drive, behind him, because he's got 4 major wins, which is a spectacular career. It's a Hall of Fame career, but he hasn't won one since 14. And you mentioned St. Andrews last year. He was in the driver's seat. Like, sure, Cam Smith came back, and hit a bunch of putts and a bunch of shots. But McIlroy, he could have gone out and won that tournament relatively easy for him, and it didn't happen. It was a borderline choke. And I wouldn't call yesterday a choke, but it just wasn't good enough. Yeah. And I'm curious, Sandsy, if you feel like his reputation in majors is changing. Is he still like a serious player because he's got the 4? Or is it now this is a guy that doesn't get it done because it's been 9 years since his last one?
It's a little bit of both. He's definitely a player. He's definitely a star. He's definitely someone who's going to be the first, second, or third choice by the odds makers every single major championship because he's just that dynamic of a player. And he seemingly always puts himself right there. Heck, in Toronto, he was right there.
Right.
And I thought for sure he was going to win in Toronto based upon the competition that was around him. He just didn't get it done on Sunday. The same thing happened this past Sunday. I think if 2 things, a great question. I think if 2 things can be true at once, that's it. I think that, yes, he is still a rock star, first ballot Hall of Fame player who has won 4 majors, and also puts himself in contention, and everybody's rooting for him because he's such a good guy and he's dynamic to watch. But also, his reputation has certainly flipped a little bit, not completely. It's not a 180, but it's changing, and it's changing even more after yesterday. Because let's face it, guys, I was thinking about this last night when I was having a beer in the airport about to take the red eye. Todd Hamilton beat Ernie Els in a playoff at Royal Troon. You remember that? All the way back in 2004, I think it was. Yeah. And Ernie Els is an iconic player. The iconic player's got to beat Todd Hamilton, right? That's no offense to Todd Hamilton. He's a wonderful player.
Or
Wyndham
Ben
Clark's
Curtis.
A wonderful player. Ben Curtis. Wyndham Clark, okay? Rory McIlroy's got to beat Wyndham Clark. Let's put it this way. Tiger beats Bob May. Hale Irwin beat Mike Donald. when you have iconic players in this sport going against guys who are not run-of-the-mill guys, but just guys who are unproven, like a Wyndham Clark, Rory has to beat him. You can't miss that putt on 8. You can't hit that third shot at 14. You can't have one birdie on the day. You can't miss every putt, even though he was singeing the edge. So his reputation is more so in a disappointing way as opposed to thinking that he can't close, because he certainly can close. But it's more of a disappointment. It's also more of, whether you're a broadcaster or whether you're a fan of Rory, when's he going to break your heart? When's this going to happen? And it happened again yesterday, just like it happened at St. Andrews. And it seemingly is happening a lot. That's 33 straight majors, fellas, for McIlroy without one, and he's won 4. I don't know, man. I think he's going to win more. I really do, because he keeps giving himself opportunities. But, my goodness, it's got to be weighing on him. It has to be weighing on him.
As far as his approach, Sandsy, it almost seems like, and you can tell he's a student of the game and a big fan of Tiger, and it was like Tiger and even Jack, for that fact, would say, I'm going to go out there and shoot par and watch all these guys crumble. The point is, I don't think Rory, as good as he is, at the British last year and at this one, these guys aren't scared of him like they were Tiger or Jack. They're just like, we're going to go out there and rip it. And that strategy of maybe even par or 1 under, it's just not good enough. So maybe he's just got to go out there and let it fly and be more aggressive.
I totally agree. I thought there was a moment yesterday, and I was in the tower for it, and I was calling it. I remember thinking to myself, man, you know that famous phrase in sports, you got to play to win instead of playing not to lose?
Yeah.
You know, there's a time to step on it, and there's a time, to lay back. There's a time. Jack and Tiger famously were conservative players, and they let everybody just crumble around them. They would be there. But then when they saw the time to pounce, they would pounce. Conservative. Hang around, and then step your foot down and just try to rip someone's heart out. Rory yesterday on the 17th hole, the 14th hole, that ball was sitting up in the rough. To me, with grandstands behind 14, grandstands to the left of 14 green where 15 tee is, I think you go for that green.
Yeah.
You try to get it up and in for a 4. What?
Fleetwood did, same hole.
Correct.
Got it on the green.
That's what I'm saying. So Tommy Fleetwood's in a situation where he's just trying to go as low as he can to give himself an opportunity. It doesn't matter to him, money-wise, whether he finishes 5th or whether he finishes 14th. He's just trying to go as low as he can. McIlroy, he sees leaderboards. He knows he's 2 back. He knows he's 1 back, 3 back at one point. He knows where he stands. At some point on a par 5, when you think you're the best player in the world and you really are one of the 2 or 3 best players on the planet, how about you just rip a 5-wood and just see if you can hit a miracle shot? Not even a miracle shot, a great shot. It wouldn't have been a miracle. It wasn't like it was buried in the rough. I just think at that moment he was a touch too conservative, playing not to lose as opposed to playing to win, and that's not his nature. He's an aggressive player. Sometimes he plays too aggressively. And I think yesterday, it didn't happen at St. Andrews. He just didn't make any putts at St. Andrews. Yesterday, same thing. He didn't make any putts, but there were a couple of times where I thought he could have been more aggressive, and I'd be curious to know what he thinks of that as well afterwards, in retrospect.
Absolutely, and then you've got the winner in Wyndham Clark, and this guy, he won at Wells Fargo. Now he's up to, I want to say, 13th in the world. He's played himself into the Ryder Cup situation. In a year from now, if we're still talking about him, how surprising would that be to you?
Oh, I think Wyndham Clark's he's a baller. Do I think he's going to be a great player and end up, winning a bunch of majors, a bunch of PGA Tour events? Who knows? To get into predicting business in this sport is so hard because you lose so many times in this sport compared to winning.
Right.
But I think Wyndham Clark can really play, and I think in this sport, maybe more than any other sport, confidence is everything. You guys know who Eric Cole is? You ever heard of Eric Cole? Remember Eric Cole? He lost in the playoff. No one ever heard of him.
Florida.
Right. No one ever heard of this kid. He loses in a playoff to Chris Kirk at the Honda Classic. Okay, that's it. One off, see you later. He's still right there. He's going to be around for a while because confidence has matched up to his swing and his game. And that's a big, big thing. I go back to what I said about Ricky. The swing is there. The work he's put in with Butch is there. But does he have the confidence in it in the moment? Not quite yet. You saw that yesterday. It doesn't mean he's not ready. It just means he's working towards that. Well, Wyndham Clark was working towards a win. He got it 5 weeks ago in Charlotte at the Wells Fargo, and then suddenly here he is under the gun. By the way, he was in the final group 2 days in a row. It wasn't like he just came out of nowhere, shot a great round on Saturday, and then ended up playing well on Sunday. He played great Thursday and Friday to get to the final group on Saturday, and then played well enough on Saturday to get in the final group again on Sunday. To me, that shows a lot of game, man. That shows a lot of moxie. That shows a lot of game. I think Wyndham Clark is a guy who can, if he can get his feet back underneath him after this last stretch of wins, which is not easy to do in this sport, I think Wyndham Clark is going to be around for a while. He's a really, really good player.
Always great catching up with you, Sansi. We appreciate you finding time for us, buddy. We'll do it again soon.
Anytime, fellas. Great to see you guys in person.
Yes, you too.
Yeah.
Great seeing you.
Sansi, by the way, my computer's okay. When you spilled Pepsi all over it, I was worried.
I got to tell you, I've been worried about that computer for so long. I don't know what the budget situation is at your shop, but let's get you a new Mac or something, for goodness sakes.
Absolutely.
Well, the budget apparently zero, so luckily it's alive.
May not happen.
Hopefully that soda that you spilled erased a lot of the stuff you shouldn't have on that computer. That's what I'm saying.
That is valid. The Google history went down with it, so it was a glass half full when you look at it that way.
Thanks, Sansi.
Thank you, Sansi.
All right, fellas, be good. We'll talk to you in a few weeks at the
You got it. Yep, Steve Sands of Golf Channel and NBC. Nick Taylor in about 45 minutes. Dreg's coming up in about 15. Jay's back in action tonight. Alejandro Kirk on the IL. We'll get into that as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, so the CFL season is officially off and running. The Argos with a big win over the weekend. They're looking good in the East. They're, I think, the prohibitive favorite to win the East, so it's good to have football.
Good in the East. They're 1-0.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't play week one, but it's early. What are you going to do, man?
Well, it's a good game. They went to work on Hamilton. Like, it was
Absolutely.
ugly. Hamilton battled back at the end, but listen, 1-0.
A win's a win.
On this. Exactly.
A win's a win. You have to. I'm just saying. I mean, the Argos. I think they're the prohibitive favorite to come out of the East, and they look good.
You watch yourself, because I think my guy, Bo Levi Mitchell, could be the comeback player of the year.
Yeah, it's
think
possible.
so?
Yeah, it's possible for sure. But the reason I bring that up is that hockey's done, basketball's done. You got baseball in full swing, but next thing up, you got football coming, right? And mini camps going on all around the NFL. And Jordan Love, a lot of eyes are on Jordan Love. People want to know what's up with this guy. And they want to learn about him. Like, who is he? And this was a really weird comment. Like, someone from the social media team clearly asked him to do this. Let's play it. This is what he had to say yesterday on Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to all the Bears fans out there. Go Pack Go.
If that comment meant... Listen to me, okay?
What does it mean?
If that comment meant, like, I'm Jordan Love, like, I'm somehow your daddy, Bears, like, I have no idea why the hell he did that.
It makes no sense. Like, it reads as if the Bears and their fans are his dad, right? Like, why is he wishing them a happy Father's Day?
Or maybe he was just trying to get cute and be like, you know what? Let's be cool here. It's only sport. I have no idea.
To the Bears, I can't.
But I have no idea why the athlete just says to the social media person, "Actually, I'm not doing that."
Exactly. I think that's what happened. The social media team's like, "This will be funny," and he went.
Say hi to Bears
rookie.
dads. I would have said, "Actually, I'll just say Happy Father's Day."
Right. Well, that's what Aaron Rodgers would have been like. I'm not doing. First, he wouldn't have even been there.
He would have said, "I own Bears fans. Happy Father's Day."
Right.
Yeah.
But Love's got no history against the Bears. Like, none. It just is a weird thing to say.
Weird.
Come on, Jordan. I'm rooting for you, man. You got to give me more than that. Hour 2 coming up. Nick Taylor at 5:30. Darren Dreger will join us as well. Jay's down in Miami playing the Marlins. We'll start teeing that series up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.